Okay, hi everyone. It's Brooke Özlemiro again in my Purposeful Leader series. And I have an amazing person with me today from Nostalgia Coffee Roasters, who's a local coffee shop. And of course, a lot of people know who have been listening to me, I'm a big coffee shop fan. Not that I understand anything good about coffee. Unfortunately, a lot of people tell me usually, can you rate the coffee that you drink in all those places? I am not good at that. I only can have a latte. So don't count me for that. But I know Taylor Fields, who is the founder of this amazing coffee shop, knows what good coffee tastes like, looks like, and she does so many other things around it. So it's my pleasure to say welcome, Taylor Fields, and just introduce us a little bit, and then I have juicy questions for you, of course.
Okay, well, thank you, Brooke. I appreciate it. I am Taylor Fields, the founder of Nostalgia Coffee Roasters. Like you said, based here in San Diego, California. I do have to say, though, Brooke, even though you don't give yourself the credit, you drink lots of coffee. So if you like it at the end of the day, that's all that matters. You're an expert in whatever coffee you drink. So in my mind, you are also a coffee expert.
But I think that's why your name, I think, says a lot about what you do and who you are too, because to me, coffee shop is where I create lots of memories, either with my laptop. I wrote my books only in coffee shops, by the way. Maybe I never told you, because the vibe of coffee shops does something for my creativity. I don't know what, but I also go there with my best friends and they are my best moments. So maybe that's the point where I can even ask you, how did the name come about?
Well, it's funny that you bring this topic up, and it's also funny that you said that's where you got your books. I actually studied myself for the CPA exam for about 8 months in a coffee shop, my favorite coffee shop in Chicago. So I guess that's a good place to start on why the name Nostalgia. And
Mhm.
I was actually just telling a producer in Colombia, who is a 17-year-old woman that we're working with and launching her coffee next week, why Nostalgia as well, because we work closely with her and she wanted to know more about the name for us to come up with a name for the coffee to launch it. So I was just telling her about this yesterday, but so maybe I have some practice now. But anyways, so for me, nostalgia really started with the idea that coffee, like food and wine, really is the best vehicle for sparking memories, heightening a sensory experience all around you. And for me specifically, when I moved to San Diego from Chicago, and I was still brewing coffee every day, working in accounting, I was always transported back to a memory in Chicago. Typically, that coffee shop I'm telling you about, called Intelligentsia, which really got me started in the coffee. They were the first place that I remember going into and being totally mesmerized by the art, the craft, the science, the vibe, the pulse of the cafe, which even though during the day it's most people working on their computers or studying, it felt like a community. And every time I would sip a cup of coffee, I would just go back to Chicago and remember it freezing outside and snowing, but having some of the best times of my life. And I still, to this day, when I drink coffee, and I'm always taken back to Chicago. And so that name now really just holds up even more for, I hope, everyone at our cafe, or when they order our coffee and they drink it, that it transports them. It sparks a happy memory. It brightens their day through memory. And it's really cool, the power that coffee has in that way. And the last piece I'll tell you is, what's really cool, and what I tell our team, is we're creating future nostalgia as well. So someone who has our coffee for the first time, it's an opportunity for us to make it a perfect moment, a superior sensory experience by curating at the cafe, the design, the noise, the sound, the ambiance, the friendly greeting you get, the food, all of it. And hopefully they'll look back on that moment as nostalgic. So anyways, that was the long answer of it. There you go.
No, I love the story because I love the stories behind it, because there's always a reason why we name our businesses in a certain way. So I love the story behind it. And I can so relate to that, because like for me, coffee is just one thing that sparks good conversations with people that I have around me. And just like you, I feel the same way. Even if I'm at a coffee shop with people that I don't know at all, writing my book, it does feel like a community. And it's
Yeah.
just, and I, having been to a coffee shop, and for those of you in the audience, maybe we're gonna have more and more coffee shops from Taylor, but we don't know yet. But I've been to her roasting place, but also the coffee shop in San Diego, which I'm very lucky to go and visit anytime I like. And I'm bringing more and more friends. And because I'm a small business owner, that's where I have my meetings. And like, that's where I meet people too. So why not go and have it at Nostalgia Coffee Roasters? That's amazing. You want to be somewhere where you're supporting a local business too, but
Yeah.
also have a good ambience and a good environment. You know you're having the best coffee. You know the ingredients are chosen in a certain way. I know everything that comes into your shop or baked or cooked there is done with love and joy and thinking about a lot of sustainability, environment issues. Oh my God, like to pay for that coffee and to be there makes me feel like I am part of an ecosystem almost.
Right. I mean, yeah, said that perfectly. I mean, your supporting small business, we all have to stick together, especially us as women-owned small businesses. We've got to really look out for each other and support it and spread the word. And, I think every time you bring someone that has such a powerful ripple effect, because, maybe they'll tell someone. And at the end of the day, I mean, it's supporting someone like Valeria, 17-year-old woman in Colombia who's trying to get into farming, and you being at the cafe has that impact around the world. And that's one of the amazing, powerful things about coffee is connecting you to people around the world and your friends locally. So.
So true, so true. So tell us, since you have started to say a little bit about like, who are the producers of coffee? How do you find them so that they are the right people and you're supporting them as well? It's just not like, oh, let me import some coffee from anywhere around the world and just brew this for this. It's not that way for you. So tell us a little bit about how you find them.
Yeah, Rick. So when I first got into coffee and I was leaving the accounting world, I was under the impression that coffee was a very progressive, really just well thought out, conscious ecosystem. And a lot of times it appears that way. It still does for a lot of folks and a lot of companies. But when you started to dig, and I started to dig into the details, it wasn't that way. And so sadly, what happens is a lot of roasters in the US will say direct trade and fair trade and all of these really hot topic keywords, if you will. But when you look into it, they are doing exactly what you said. They go to an importer and they say, I want a coffee from Mexico. And the importer will quote them a price, they'll pay it. Typically, the importer will be able to tell them at least where that coffee came from. The producer or the roaster will then say, oh, it was direct trade, we know where it came from. But there's a couple of big things missing there. One, there's a complete lack of that personal connection with the producer. And two, how the heck did that price get determined and what actually ended up with the producer? We know from the studies from the Specialty Coffee Association, National Coffee Association as well, that the majority of coffee producers live well below the poverty line. and only 15% of world coffee producers are women. So there's these huge inequities taking place in coffee. And if we just go to an importer and ask for any old coffee, we're just fueling that system that's been around and has really left a lot of folks disenfranchised over the years. So when we got into coffee, we kind of fell victim to that. When we started out the first month or two of roasting, we had no idea what we were doing. We were learning from the ground up. So we found, luckily, a couple really good partners in the import world and started to learn very quickly what was happening. And that started to change my mind on, whoa, we actually need to be way more purposeful with how we're buying coffee and who we're buying it from and how it's working and the traceability behind it. It's been a journey we've been on for 2 years. We're lucky enough now, after our first coffee launch, and we got a high score on it, for producers to reach out to us or other organizations to reach out to us. And we can then make either a direct link with the producer who reached out, or that organization connects us with producers. And we'll go visit them. And now what we're doing is negotiating pricing with them. So we call it a thriving rate for that coffee. And what we're doing is moving away from the commodity market. So coffee is bought and sold on the exchange as a commodity. Those large importers will typically add a differential, a premium for quality, whatever they determine it is, plus the commodity price on the day of that contract, which for everyone out there, I would ask you to go look at the commodity market for coffee, see how volatile it is. I mean, it's dropped over 60 cents a pound in 4 months. That's the difference. I mean, for a small producer selling, let's say 5,000, 10,000 pounds of coffee, that's the difference from them losing their farm potentially, or now being indebted forever to an importer or a local government, a local co-op or something. So we try to ignore the C market, figure out what the producer just needs to really thrive and help their community, their family, themselves. And that's the price we'll pay. And then we go to an importer because we don't have a license. It's very expensive. Only a couple of folks have licenses. And we work with importers now to buy our contract, pay the producer exactly what we said we wanted to pay for it, and then we'll pay the importer an extra logistics fee to get that coffee here. It gets complicated. It's not easy. Some coffee, I mean, we'll start the process now. We won't see it till next year, but it's what we got to do to make the world, I mean, literally a better place and to help bridge that gap of all the inequities. So that was another very long answer, but it's really important that I think folks understand how complicated it is to get coffee into your cup in the morning.
My God, that's not long at all. And thanks for educating us all, because really, as consumers, until we do the same research like you do, or you tell us how this works, we don't know. And then for years and years, because I'm so much older than you, I know a lot of products that we ate, we bought, we never knew how it came to our table. Now we know so much more, thanks to founders like you are doing the due diligence to look at the behind the doors, how it's being done and how it affects everyone, the producers in the first place. So first of all, thanks for all you do and going through this harder steps to make it right for everyone. And I'm a big believer, like it has to be a win for everyone across the board, for all stakeholders. And not a lot of businesses care about that. So thanks for caring and doing the harder work instead of like, okay, get me some good coffee. And what you said at the beginning is really important too. We do fall into those words that we see, fair trade coffee, and we feel, oh, comfortable to go and buy it. But then when we hear the stories behind it, we're like, oh no, I don't want to spend my money on that, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. Start to ask those questions and dig a little bit further, but you know, it does fall on us as the coffee roaster, as the cafe you go to do our best to inform and educate the consumer, but in a digestible way that is easy to understand and doesn't come across as preachy either, because we really are trying to build
Sure.
an inclusive and welcoming space. So it's a very difficult balancing act. But of course, if someone asks, we will give the full detail of exactly how we do it. And I guess the other fun part is if you just want to know your coffee is sourced right and ethically and sustainably, and you don't have time or you don't want to hear the full answer, like you can just come and buy that coffee and still feel good about yourself. So it is a win-win, like you said, for everyone.
Yes, true. And then when we find people like you are gems in this space, we want to stick by you. Of course, we want to support you because, yeah, I think a lot of consumers like me really, really care about where we spend money, because that's the only way we can support the right people doing the right things versus those who don't care about winning it all over the place, or they don't care about the planet or the people. So that's very important. So is this the Purposeful Leader series? And I know your purpose, like, it entails so much more than even what you said, which is only bright and wonderful all on its own, but it's even more than that. So tell us a little bit more about, like, how you use coffee for equity and all the other things that you care a lot in your heart.
Yeah, totally. And I think, going back to how we first met was through kind of the correct me the name, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here. The name of the group and
Conference.
conference in San
Yes.
Diego, purposeful business and leadership, and getting more into that conscious capitalism type subject is how we met. And it's still a relatively new concept, especially going to business school. The idea that you're not just held accountable to your shareholders and maximizing the value, but rather being a mission-driven company that can still maximize your shareholder value, but do the right things and actually use capitalism for the most powerful way of changing the world and impacting the world for the better. And it's still tough. We're still figuring out as a young company how to go about getting investors, getting folks to believe in us, trying to be, cash flow positive. I don't like to say necessarily like profitable, yes, but cash flow positive, meaning we're doing the right thing, and having a mission behind it that is so much more than the product, which is what you're alluding to. So yes, we roast exceptional coffee, we brew exceptional coffee, we've won awards, which I'm really excited about. I got into coffee because I'm passionate about coffee, but what we're doing at Nostalgia is really truly using coffee as a catalyst for systemic change, for a more equitable, inclusive, diverse, sustainable coffee industry system-wide. So even I think behind me it says damn good coffee for everyone, the producer, the consumer, our team, everyone in the chain. And so one of the things we do, as mentioned, is we're working with producers directly and trying to change how coffee is bought and sold. Well, we're also the equity piece, trying and purposefully seeking out minority-owned coffee farms, and that really means women-owned coffee farms. We are super proud of the fact that over 50% of the coffee that we roast at Nostalgia is grown by women-owned coffee farms. Our 3 largest trading partners in Brazil, Sumatra, and Mexico are all women-owned farms. So it's really important, and it just turns out, not surprisingly, but women-owned farms make better coffee. It's just a fact of it. So that's another like positive effect from it that you'll taste in the cup. So that's one piece of it. Another portion, which is also going at equity too, and inclusion diversity though, is we give 5% of our revenue, so top line number, back to producers every single year, no matter what. It's not a 5% of profit or any of that. It's not a monthly this or that. It's every year, 5% going back to producers, truly as grants. We're not, no strings attached. We just have to do substantial work to make up for all those inequities. We've had an awesome partnership in Colombia where we gave 5% of revenue last year to Andres Cardona, a young producer who rebuilt his drying facility with the money we provided. And because of that, he can produce 4 times more coffee, export all of it to the United States if he wants, or anywhere else in the world, fetch 5 to 10 times the amount for that coffee, the price of that coffee, than the local federation in Colombia would pay him for it. And he can help process his neighbors' farms who have never been able to export and have always had to sell to the federation. So it has this huge impact, this huge effect. And it goes beyond that. I mean, he is now mentoring Valeria Pino, who I was telling you about, the young woman in Colombia. His mentor, we've bought coffee from. And it's this kind of beautiful circle chain where, I don't know, everyone's just trying to help each other and truly make their community, their family, their lives better. And if we can help in some small way, we certainly will. And I think the coolest part I do want to say, Brooke, is we had a debate whether or not, when we gave this money, should we say it has to be used for this or that? And we decided on no, it should really truly be up to the producer, because who are we to tell them how to spend that money? What we're going for here is equity, not control. And if we work with the right partners, we trust they'll do the right thing. And I mean, without question, Andreas's first response when we told him we were going to give him this money was, how, like, this is awesome. I'm going to do this so I can help my community. And it's like, those are the folks that we're working with, and it's incredible. So that's kind of the producer portion of it. And then with our team as well, we can't just help producers. We can't, a lot of coffee shops, again, will just say, talk about the producer, but what about their team in the United States? So we work really, really, really hard to make sure that our team earns a thriving wage for their work at Nostalgia, and that they see career potential at our coffee company or in coffee in general, and not just as a revolving door or an in-between job. If we can change the current thought around working at a coffee shop as this in-between job to actual career opportunities, we're going to have so much more innovation in coffee. And we're working really hard to make sure that happens. The last piece of it is the consumer, the customer. So like you, Brooke, we've got to make sure, first and foremost, that coffee tastes exceptional, but it's got to be approachable. It can't be pretentious. It just has to meet you where you are. So, that led to our innovative brew bag, fully compostable, sustainable coffee in a tea bag. We call it a brew bag, which is really great. But that's eliminating plastic from the oceans. It's allowing folks to have an award-winning, exceptional cup of coffee with just hot water. You don't need all this equipment. And then with our whole bean and our ground coffee and all of our offerings, we have dark roast, light roast, medium roast. We have something for everyone. We're not going to tell you how to drink your coffee. You said you like lattes. That's awesome. We want to support that, because at the end of the day, you're drinking coffee that is supporting a producer somewhere in the world. And that's all that matters. And we'll make sure that latte is exceptional, from the milk to any syrups we use in there, anything. So it's a full 360 of what we do. Everything is definitely thought through.
It is amazing. So that's why I'm so in love with what you're doing, your coffee shop, everything, because look at how many different ways you're giving back to community, to people who are the producers. I mean, all the spectrum, as you said, the 360, you're thinking about every stakeholder that is imaginable. So that's why it's amazing. And I think I got this from your website, and I don't want to ruin it, but read it. We must always endeavor to be better and do better for coffee, humankind, and earth. So
Yeah.
that's what I love. That's why I love your story, because I want people who are listening in to be inspired by. It's not only what you're selling, what you do around it makes a huge difference. And that's what makes you so much more really in the authentic way purposeful. It's not a tagline, it's not a marketing scheme or tactic. It's just who you are. That's going to sell more. That's going to make you more successful, especially with the young generations like you. I think the consciousness level is growing, thank God. So we have to keep all of this in mind, but it's still, I know you're a very humble person, but it's unbelievable how much you've already done with everything that you mentioned to us and everything else that you're also doing. But it's just like what we want to see more of in this world. And I know we're coming towards the end, but I also want to make sure, because I think it's amazing, because it's not only that you're supporting female, but you are very keen on helping the LGBTQ community too. So I think that's very important and close to my heart too, because a lot of people don't even say that, or they don't always have it in their purpose. So I can you say a few words about that too, please?
Yeah, so I am a gay woman, and it is something that, when I first started the coffee company, wasn't necessarily loud about. It's a difficult subject, a hard place to maneuver in, particularly in the investment world, or when you're starting to try to raise money or work with banks. And unfortunately, a lot of the capital in this country is still controlled by older white men. And so I found myself, unfortunately, just not mentioning that I was gay. And it just seemed like that was the better route for me. Well, it wasn't, and it wasn't my true authentic self. So with a lot of support of my partner, friends, the folks that I work with, started slowly but steadily starting to have the company identify more with being a gay woman-owned coffee company, and in that order, and making sure that we are supporting the LGBTQ community, from San Diego Pride to She Fest to donations to, I mean, just any organization. There's a really cool trans organization in San Diego that we've worked with, and just making sure that we're letting people know that, hey, just because we're gay doesn't mean we can't be a successful business. And in fact, maybe we're going to be even more successful, and we're a better business because we are diverse, and that's what we love. So we are purposefully making sure that our company, our leadership, looks like the community, and that means having LGBTQ folks in leadership roles, BIPOC folks in leadership roles, just the most diverse population possible in the company, because that's what our community is, and that's what our company needs to reflect. But like, there's still a lot of work to be done to not just catch up, but I mean, just show a force that we are a force to be reckoned with, which we are, the LGBT community is. But when you look at the statistics of Fortune 500 companies, I think it's less than 1% of CEOs are LGBTQ. That's ridiculous. That needs to change. It is going to change, and we're going to make sure that everyone that works with us knows they're working with a gay woman-owned business. And yeah, we make damn good coffee, and we're doing things right for sustainability in the earth and the community and beyond. So I appreciate you bringing it up. I really appreciate that, and that's definitely part of our DNA. It gives us a little bit more of a drive every day. So yeah,
that's amazing, and thank you for sharing that, because it needs to be shared, because you are paving the way, because nobody should feel bad about, like you said, it wasn't as easy with the investors and you had to hide that piece of you. That is crazy in my opinion. But I am also seeing a lot more investors are trying to be more diverse. They are getting to be more purposeful. They want to sometimes invest only in companies who are doing good in the world with social impact. So I think we are going in the right direction. But like you said, that's why I want you to be loud and clear about what you stand for, because you are paving the way for so many people. So you are an amazing inspiration, because I think my audience admires everything that you share too, because look at everything that you're touching and how many people you're inspiring. Because when, we are human beings, and when we feel alone or feel bad or not feel like we belong, and then we see somebody just like us doing all this work, we feel like, okay, if she can do it, then I can too, right? So you are that person in our local community, and we're lucky to have you. And if you don't mind, one last thing, because everybody who has a kind of a career, but they change it totally to a different direction, also might like to hear a little bit of like, I think you said, because we didn't have that conversation with you, but you did say you were working to be a CPA and everything. So what were you doing before the coffee shop? Just a little bit of that story too. Yes.
Yeah, well, I originally went to college to be an accountant. So I studied accounting and finance, got my degree in both of those, actually got my CPA license, and was working in audit for one of the biggest accounting firms in the world, auditing companies. And I was married, by the way, at that point in time. And what really kind of, pushed me over the edge to make this massive change, and leave the comfort of a steady paycheck really was a couple things. I was going through a divorce. I was just so incredibly passionate about coffee. It was all I could think about, and wanting to do something that mattered, and would brighten people's days. I had no idea at that point the extent at which I could help people, but I knew I wanted to do something with purpose and value. I made the leap because I tell my team this all the time, and other entrepreneurs, is the way I live is I don't want to look back on my life and say, I wish I had tried. There's still a chance, Brick, that we could fail, but I would much rather try and fail than to never try at all. And it's, don't get me wrong, extremely challenging, exhausting. It tests me every day, but this is truly living to me and having a purpose. So to anyone out there, I mean, like, your audience, it's just, if you really have a passion for something, do it. Find the community that can help support you, and we'll be there with you. I would love to talk with you and help support any way we can, but it's not easy, but it's definitely rewarding.
Yeah. This is such a good end to it, because I love the story and the lessons that is good for all of us, because I mean, it's important that we follow what we do. And I always feel like when I talk to my clients, it's like disappointments are so much better than regrets, because when you talk to people at a very old age, when you talk to them, that's one thing that they say, I wish I at least tried. Even if it ended in failure, at least I would have said, like, I did try. So my dog is just came next to me, so he's distracting me.
Aww.
But I mean, I totally get what you're saying, and like, I think that's something we owe to ourselves. We really need to at least give it a try, even if it doesn't work. And I love that it worked for you, and I know it's gonna work wonders. If you're out there and we can share your story more, then I think you will be an inspiration to many others who are willing to change their career, follow their hearts, but they just don't know how, or they just need that little encouragement from somebody like you. But any last words that you want to leave my audience with?
No, I really appreciate you, Brooke, for having me on here and sharing a little bit more about our story and nostalgia, what we do, why we do it. And I do hope it sparks even just one person to maybe take the plunge to create a purposeful business, or shift their business to having a little bit more purpose. But we have a lot of work to do. We're still fighting very big companies out there. We're fighting against the system. So, any support is always appreciated. If you need coffee, definitely let us know.
Yes.
We'll supply you. But the fight continues. The good coffee continues to brew, and I just appreciate you.
Yeah, of course. And we appreciate your time with my audience and myself, of course. And I think I'm going to see you next time I'm at your coffee shop with my other girlfriends who haven't been there yet. So I'm
Heck yeah.
sure they will love it too. And now it's so nice that we will have the story to share on YouTube and everywhere else. And I'm sure it's going to make a positive impact in so many more, not only one, but lots of more people, hopefully. But
I love
thank
it.
you. Thanks for
Yeah.
everything you do. You are a star.
Thank you too, Brooke. You're just as amazing, and yeah, thank you for highlighting my story, so many others, and I'll be back anytime. But we'll see you at the coffee shop soon.
Sure.